Hey everybody, welcome back to the Burn Boot Camp podcast. It is your host, Morgan Klein, and today we're going to talk about change. Okay, so I'm going to start this podcast with a quote by Socrates that says, "The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." Okay, so the secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but building the new. So I want to talk about a couple things as it relates to change, okay? Seasons, relationships, parenting, business, and yourself. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of all the changes that I myself am going through right now and why I truly believe it's important not to fight the old, but to focus your energy on what that new version of your life is going to look like, because it's inevitable that there's going to be change in your life, okay? It's inevitable. So let's just think about seasons alone, okay? I'm gonna parallel the seasons to our life to the actual weather seasons, okay? There's 4 seasons in a year, okay? Some of us live where we get to feel those a lot more often, right? The cold weather, or the warm weather. 4 seasons in our life, okay? There's winter and there's summer. Those are the 2 that I kind of want to talk about for a minute. But if you're not changing with the seasons, okay, and you're not willing to adapt to how you need to prepare yourself for those seasons, think about living in Minnesota in December and thinking that you can wear shorts and flip-flops and a tank top, okay, for the month of December. Now, listen, I know how you Minnesota people are. If it's like 50 degrees, you might be doing that, but just stick with me here, okay? If you are in a season where it's 30 degrees, you need to prepare yourself for that season, right? You need to get your winter clothes. You need to get your sweaters out from storage. You need to get your winter boots and your hat and your gloves and your mitten all down from the closet, right? You have to start to prepare for that cold weather. And then on the flip side of that, it's summertime, okay? You got to store that all away, kind of out with the old, in with the new, like changing your wardrobe around, changing the activities that you do. What you do in the winter in Minnesota is different than what you do in the summer in Minnesota, right? And so I say that to kind of say there's different seasons in our life, okay? And we all go through different seasons, so I'm not even gonna go to like what season you may be in or what season I am. All I know is that life changes every couple months for me too, right? Whether that's the weather around me or just what I am faced with. And so my job is to spend my energy on what do I need to wear during this season, okay? Do I need to wear warm clothes or do I need to wear cold clothes, right? And so using that to say, like, how do I need to prepare for this next season of my life? And so for some of you, that might be, just making small tweaks, right? Preparing yourself for the summertime and kids' activities and, vacations that you want to go on, and just really planning for a successful next season of your life. For some of you, that might mean quitting a job and starting a business. For some of you, that might be stepping into a new relationship or getting married or having a baby, right? We all have these different seasons in our life that we're going to go through, and we have to be able to prepare for them, right? If you're getting ready to have a baby, you're buying the clothes, the crib, you're getting the room ready, you're doing some education, you're taking care of your body if you're a woman, right? And you're the one that's giving birth. Like, you're doing all these things to prepare yourself. You're spending all that energy on what's about to change in my life and how can I be the most prepared for that change, whether it's good or it's bad. Okay, so there is going to be change. Change is inevitable. I think everybody knows that, but it's good that we have this reminder, because I think sometimes we think that life is just meant to be like it's finally going to get easy, or it's finally going to calm down and I'm not going to be so busy. How many of you have ever said that and it never calms down? It never stops getting busy. It's like, oh, I just need to get to this month and then I'm like going to have all this time on my hands. No, it doesn't happen, okay? We all say it too. So I think we all do know that change happens and life throws things at us, curveballs at us all the time. If we are not constantly ready and in that mindset that, hey, let me focus on what's in my control and prepare myself for this next season. Sometimes we get preparation seasons and sometimes we don't. Sometimes things happen just like that. And we got to be able to, okay, changing my mindset, changing, whatever I need to do to make sure I weather this next season, this next storm. So that's seasons. Relationships. This is another thing that you need to focus on, what's changing in my relationship. So I'll just dive straight into like marriage right now, right? the marriage that Devin and I had, we're about to celebrate our 9th anniversary this summer. But the marriage that we had in year 1 is incredibly different than the marriage that we have in year 9, right? So much has changed about our marriage, right? There's been good times. There's been challenging times. I'm not going to say there's been bad times because there hasn't. But there's certainly been these seasons of change in my marriage that I've had to adapt to, right? Like having babies, right? Having 1 kid, then 2 kids, then 3 kids. And all of that is required Devin and I to find new ways to parent, new ways to communicate, new ways to spend time with each other. Our business has grown tremendously since we've been married, right? So our business has needed more of us. Our children have needed more of us. So in our marriage, we've had to make that intentional time to make sure that our marriage is staying strong. But that's all changed. So the things I would have done even a year ago to make things good with Devin and I is so different than where it is now. We've learned to communicate better with each other. We've created some tools in our marriage that helps us when we feel like we're going into a season where it's like, okay, things are about to get really hard. What are we going to do to prepare ourselves? So there's constant change in your relationships, okay? Whether that's your friendships or your marriage, there's constant change. Your friends need you differently. Maybe your friends aren't pouring into you as much because they're going through something, right? So how do we adapt to that? How do we make some changes that are in our control to focus on the new chapter of that relationship or that marriage? Parenting, okay? Tons of change in parenting. I shared in another podcast how, my son woke up and it's just like a meltdown central, right? Like he goes through those phases where he's still learning how to communicate what he needs to me or, what's on his mind and what's bothering him. I'm still learning, him a little bit too, as he's going through probably a season of growth in his brain and in his body. Like, what does his sleep need to look like? What does his diet need to look like to make sure that I'm supporting all the changes that are going on in him? How do I need to better communicate to him? So that's just one example of how parenting changes. But let's be honest, parenting a newborn is different than a toddler. It's different than a young kid that's starting school, getting around other kids finally and having some of the influences that they didn't used to have. That's a completely different level of parenting for me. So that's kind of where it's stopped for me. But I know that I have more seasons of change where, my kids are going to start to get older. All 3 of them are going to be in different activities. And I'm going to have to then go back to my marriage change and be like, okay, now we have even more time that we're divided as parents and as partners in our business. So how are we going to flex that and change our marriage to make sure we're supporting all the other things in our life, right? And then when my kids become teenagers and in high school and in college and then getting their first career and then having babies, like all of that is so many seasons of change. If I was the same mom throughout that entire lifespan, do you think I'd be able to serve my kids as well as they need me to serve them? No, because you're not going to parent a newborn and a toddler the same way you're going to parent your high school kids, right? So if I don't change and I don't focus on the new season and the new version of what Morgan looks like as a mom and embrace those changes, then I'm going to fall flat, right? So that's, again, why it's just so important to be ready to invest in the new and stop fighting the old. Do I wish my kids were toddlers sometime and we were back to those old days? Of course, but that's just not the reality. So why fight that? Just step into that new season and start to appreciate and love and manage the new things that come with that. Business. Our business is going through a huge change right now. We are getting ready to launch a new product that I'm not going to talk too much about, but it's going to change the way we go to market. It's going to change the way we serve our members. It's going to change the way we reach our members. And it's so exciting, but it requires a lot of change. A lot of different operational changes are going to take place. A lot of process changes are going to take place. I need to invest my education on this new product even more so I can fully understand it and lead and manage this company differently. So once again, the way that I led Burn Bootcamp in 2012 was different than 2015 when we became a franchise, which was different than 2019 when right before the pandemic hit, right? Then I had to change and be a different leader when the pandemic hit. Then I became a CEO, okay, completely different hat that I'm wearing, needed to change again. And I am going to constantly be evolving how I manage my business and how I prepare myself to prepare our business for the next season of change. Because here's the reality: if you're not growing in your business and evolving, you're likely dying, right? The consumer is changing. How we go to market with the consumer is changing. What we used to be able to do isn't working anymore. So technology has a big part in that. So we have to be able to change, right? And we have to be able to evolve. And that means I have to invest and spend my energy on that change versus fighting, oh, I wish I could still be that leader from 2019. Okay, the leader from 2019 isn't going to get your company to where it wants to go. So that is how, you're going to have changes in your business lifestyle. And then self, okay? So all the changes for yourself, okay? This is the most important one. That's why I left it last. But realizing that there's a new version of you every single day when you wake up, to be honest. And I'm going through a lot of changes right now, like from just putting myself first again, like truly putting myself first. I've said that I'm doing that, but I don't think I've actually done it from a consistent perspective because I'm a give. And there's a lot of things that I have to give to. But I've realized more and more that my health and my energy, it impacts so much of how I'm able to give. And so I'm pouring into how do I make myself the healthiest version of Morgan that I possibly can. I'm investigating my hormones, my gut health. I'm looking at the foods I'm eating again, the foods I'm even giving my kids again. I've kind of slipped away from where I want that to be and what I want that to look like. And so I've continued to change how I treat myself, how I talk to myself. I'm praying a lot more. I'm getting silent with the Lord a lot more. Like, these are all things that go away very quickly if I don't put myself first. And then I get into this headspace that's not good for me. So now I'm going to build systems. I'm going to build systems that allow me to step into this new version of myself every single day. It's not even a season, guys. It's every day I'm trying to get a little bit better than the next day. So focusing on the changes that yourself needs to get through the season of life that you're in. And I think we all have it very backwards. We change all these other things, but then we're not willing to really look in the mirror and say, how am I not changing? And how is that impacting all these other things in my life that I just talked about? Because it starts and stops with us. So if we can't be in the mirror or look in the mirror and be accountable for, hey, I keep trying to do this one thing and it's like insanity, right? Like, I keep trying to not change and fighting this old version of me, but it's holding me back in all these other areas. So just opening your mindset up and being invested and interested in how can you get better? How can you invest your time and energy and resources into getting to be the better version of yourself than you need to be to support everything else? So change in yourself is normal, and a lot of people don't like seeing change in you, right? So just remember that as well, that as you change, there's going to be people that change around you. Your relationships are going to change. Your marriage might change. How you become a mom changes. The goal is for all of that to change for the better. But the reality is sometimes people don't like seeing that forward progress in you and seeing that change, that positive change. And so that's going to be another thing that is going to come against you that says, no, Morgan, stay the old self. I like that version of the old self. I don't want that new version because it makes me feel a certain way. So they're going to try to push that down in you, right? Or they're going to feel a certain way or react a certain way. But get really, 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 really clear on who you want to be. And then those people are going to follow you to that next season of your life, that next change into your life. They're going to actually love and support you even more if they're the right people in your life. So don't fight change, guys. Lean into it. Don't fight that old version of yourself. Focus all of that energy on what is next for me. What is next? How do I prepare myself for this next season of my life that gives me the most fulfillment and joy and prosperity? So I want that for you guys. I want that for myself. We should want it for each other because that's growth, and that's what life is all about, right? Getting to tap into your full potential and really walk into the person that you're meant to be. So thank you guys for listening. I hope that you're going through some positive changes and that you are opening your mind throughout all of those changes and you're not fighting the new, okay? Or not fighting the old, okay? Don't fight the old. All right, guys, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. 2 claps on 2, 1, 2.